from Milwaukee. We are on the corner, River West Radio 104.1 FM, WXRW. How's everyone doing? My name is Dan, and Sheila and Bernie.
Hi, Dan.
More technical
You know
difficulties.
what?
I have no idea how I'm doing.
You know what? If we screw up the jingle in the beginning, maybe we won't get cut off at the end. Like last time, we ran out of time.
Yeah, should we apologize now?
Sure. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, so
Bernie's still looking for the jingle. That's
yeah,
all right.
let's skip the jingle. So, we've got a lot to unpack tonight. Right? Oh. Dan, Bernie, just
I found it.
let's move on.
Normally it's on our screen here, but we had some technical difficulties earlier. So
Right.
anyway,
Maybe I need to have a phone dedicated for that.
so as Sheila said, we have a lot to unpack tonight, and we're revisiting family estrangement, and we promise not to re-explain the Enlightenment period tonight, okay? And we put a lot of our listeners to sleep last week,
And
but
the
it was
bus.
important that we did.
No,
gotta avoid the
it was
bus.
actually interesting. What happened is we're tackling this huge topic, and we didn't realize how long it was going to take. And so we framed last week's show as family estrangement, but then we really tried to explain Western civilization in 40 minutes. We took the listeners around the world, ran out of time, and got cut off.
Because it is connected, though. It's
It
related.
is.
So we-
It's related.
We put the cutoff in the front this time.
So tonight we're going to narrow it
Right.
a bit, right?
Right.
We're staying with family estrangement and asking what's changed over the decades. So first, just to ground this in reality, last week we mentioned that surveys suggest roughly 1 in 4 adults report being estranged from at least one close family member, which is crazy to me, right? Among adult children specifically, estimates range from 20 to 27% reporting some level of no contact or long-term distance from a parent.
Right. And last time we had stated that's tens of millions of people who are estranging from their parents, grandparents, siblings, children. I mean, not necessarily all of them, but those are the close family members.
And I think everyone has a story around that. I mean, I know a lot of families that have at least one person.
Me too. And I'm meeting people all the time.
Right.
So I just wanted to quickly recap our Around the World in 40 minutes. So last time we discussed that beginning in the late 1960s, postmodern thinking became skeptical of traditional authority and large shared narratives about how the world works. Over time, moral authority, meaning who gets to define what's valid, justified, or legitimate, increasingly shifted toward lived experience. And by that we mean that now your lived experience is what informs meaning.
Right.
So, and that shift has real implications inside of families. Today, when conflict happens,
Well, it affects institutions, including the family.
right,
Yep.
it affects everything really. So when conflict happens today, we ask different questions than families used to ask. We ask things like, who defines harm? Who defines abuse? Who gets to define what happened? Last week, we were building toward this tension. If lived experience becomes unquestionable truth, what happens to dialogue?
Right. And our working idea tonight is this. Both parties, adult children and parents, are reacting to a cultural shift none of us consciously created and most of us don't fully see.
Right, and that's the effects of postmodernism.
And it bears repeating, we're not debating whether abuse is real, because it is, right?
Definitely.
We're not defending cruelty. We're asking something else. Why does estrangement seem more common and more publicly framed as empowerment? And what happens to families and maybe even to society when bonds become more fragile?
Right. Well, let's start with identity. So for most of history, identity was largely inherited and relational. You were born into a role: daughter, sister, brother, son, Milwaukeean, protector. That doesn't mean people didn't have individuality. Your identity was relational before it was expressive. Belonging was assumed and taken for granted. Family was durable by default.
And so we are all born with a framework of identity.
Right.
And you could modify it. You can adjust
Absolutely.
it. You know, if you were born Christian, you'd maybe Christendom is part of your world, but you may not be religious, right? There's a cultural component that you didn't just cast away. Sometimes you did,
You
right?
still discovered who you were,
Right.
and you still expressed
That's what
yourself.
happened to me.
Yeah, but you never strayed from the idea like I'm a sister. I was raised and born in Milwaukee.
Right.
So, yeah, but that changed. Now, identity is self-authored, belonging is negotiated, exit is culturally normalized, and emotional language has been elevated. And it makes me wonder, what anchors identity over time now? What keeps you connected when you screw up, when you feel detached? When I looked over at Bernie.
Well,
And
it's funny that
I saw him laughing.
that reminds me of a story.
I'm just looking at him over here, and I'm thinking, man, he's got a
Uh-oh.
Svengali T-shirt
Uh-oh.
on.
It's my father's T-shirt.
Svengoolie. So when I was probably about 23 or 25, I got in a little trouble, and
Oh, I thought you were
What?
younger than that.
Shocking.
well, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so we were smoking a joint in the parking lot, in the bar parking lot, and a cop busted us, and we all got arrested, even though I wasn't smoking the joint, even though I didn't want any of it or anything.
Of course not.
But, you know, we all got arrested because they wanted one of us to say it was ours or his or whatever. And, you know, Dan, I'm not a narc.
Yes, you want to know why?
I'm not a narc,
because
man.
you were loyal. You had a sense of identity that you were loyal
Ain't
to
no
your
snitch.
friends.
Well, anyway, I had to get a lawyer, and it
It's a
cost like
stretch.
$3,000. And
You had to get a lawyer for how much?
it was like $3,000 back.
Oh my God!
And it anyway, and it got deferred, and it got whatever the right word is. It got they like basically threw it out. But I ended up my family. I told my family about it, and I was really humiliated and embarrassed. And I thought it was going to be like this big thing, and they were going to like disown me and stuff like that. But what happened was, one by one, family members, brothers and sisters, came and talked to me, and they said, well, nobody knows this, but this happened to me, or I did this, and it's not a big deal. We know you're a good kid, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, wow. And it was over like a holiday weekend that I was home, and I ended up realizing that there was just a connection that I had with my family that was sort of reinforced through that. And before that, I was really skeptical of them. So
Yeah, and I mean, I think we all have stories like that, right? Where those bonds stay
Yeah.
with you, and there's always. she said,
Sheila.
"Do you need your lemon juice? Do you need your lemon juice?" I think Sheila needs her lemon juice. Her medicine. Anyway,
I don't know.
Proceed.
Apparently, she thinks that funny. That story.
I don't know why I found it funny. I'm still laughing from when I glanced up and you were like giggling. I just wanted to add that Bernie has 13 siblings or 12 siblings.
So that was a long conversation.
That's a lot to have sibling after sibling, and
Yeah,
you
finally I said,
approach
just
you.
stop. Leave me alone.
No, but it's so meaningful that it didn't matter how you screwed up. Your family let you know, hey, we're here. We love you. We're always going to be here no matter what you do. So that anchors you.
right,
Around the
right.
corner.
And today, it's different.
Yeah, it is different. Exactly. I mean, for most of history, family wasn't just emotional; it was structural, right? So there was that. For me, it was always that piece where I did want to run away from family. It was oppressive at times, right?
I think
Oh,
most young people go through that. I think most of us at some point want to break free. I mean,
I couldn't wait to leave.
But
after high
isn't
school.
it part of
But you
becoming an adult? Like
Yeah.
you start testing boundaries and you think, oh, your parents are so stupid.
put that
I
in,
wanted to go just so I could feel like I was doing things on my own. It felt like such a
Right. You had
it was prescribed.
you had a
identity.
huge number of adults
Yeah.
to break
Yeah.
free of.
yeah.
But nonetheless.
But I'm saying it was structural. You stuck with it, right? Because there wasn't really an option of abandoning it. You could, like, again, you can push the boundaries a little bit, but that endurance created continuity in your life, right? You knew who you were at 10, 30, and I'm not 70, but hopefully I'll
Right.
know who I am when I'm at 70. So there was a period
And
of,
you knew who you were in relation to those people who
Right.
had known you your entire life. They knew every iteration of you, every version, the good, the bad, and there's comfort in that. It anchors you, it moors
Right.
you.
you know, but in modern culture, bonds are increasingly conditional. They often require affirmation of the current self. And if the relationship doesn't validate who you are right now, it can be rejected. And that's a huge shift. It wasn't an option for many of us. And again, there's real abuse, right?
Right.
And
Right,
it
yeah.
took courage for those people
Well,
to get out
it
from those.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
but as the definition of harm widens, you know, what family institution, what can actually survive that, right?
Right.
Because there were times when I was like, oh,
Right. Me too. So yeah, it was a significant change. And another shift was happening at the same time, which is the parenting shift. The way people parent has changed over the years, and it's had a huge impact on the family structure. So we talked about this a little bit last time, but let's recap what it looked like to be a child back in the day.
Back for us. Yeah.
Well, even before that. So before the 1960s, children were expected to contribute. That might mean paid labor in either industrial areas like factories and mills, or working on farms, helping in the family trade, or caring for siblings. They were part of the functioning unit. Obedience and responsibility mattered more than emotional articulation. Parents were the authority figures. Nobody questioned that. And you did what you told or else. Physical punishment was common and normal back then. Families were durable, but emotional expression was limited. And then the 1970s through the 1980s, we've got our generation, the latchkey generation. There was far less supervision. People hear Gen X say, we raised ourselves, we were feral.
The feral generation.
you know,
Yeah.
I would say this. It's not that we raised ourselves. I know we
No,
got a lot
no.
to cover, but
Oh, we're fine.
it's how we managed ourselves, right? We managed each other. There was a kid's world in which you had to manage. I remember going outside, and the whole day was in front of you. There was a lot of negotiation going on. There was a lot of managing happening. We go down to Lincoln Park and we'd play baseball, and we just meet strange boys, right? That,
yeah,
you
that
know,
you'd never met before.
and we'd have to come up like, okay, if you hit the ball in the right field, you're automatically out because we don't have enough guys to cover the entire. So all that had to be managed, had to be negotiated, and then you had to actually get through the game without killing each other.
Right. And I think that helped us become the self-sufficient go-getters we are today.
Okay, I wish we had a laugh track.
Well, we
That's the producer's job. So
here I'll pull up a laugh track.
we
Give me 5
don't need
minutes.
a laugh track. We have our own laugh track.
I like that. That's what produced the self-sufficient go-getters that we are today.
No, I need 5 more minutes.
So kids definitely, we had more independence. There was less, I mean, we didn't have a lot of emotional stuff. Although I will say, as a kid, I was given the book, What Makes Me Feel This Way, which I think was written by the same author that wrote I'm Okay, You're Okay, which
Oh,
that was
boy.
like do you remember that book, Bernie?
I remember of it.
I
I,
remember
Yeah.
Free to Be You and Me.
I couldn't.
That was
read.
another one that started getting us in touch with our emotions. And there was another one that
And
talked
our
about
identity.
and our absolutely. William wants a doll. Yeah, he can love him and bathe him. Anyway, there were warm fuzzies and cold pricklies. So maybe some emotional stuff began and some identity. But mostly our parents just said, go outside and play.
Right. Right.
Or if you didn't get outside, you'd be doing chores all day in the house.
And this isn't a conversation. Like I walked to school both ways uphill. This isn't that
In
kind
the
of
snow,
conversation.
barefoot.
There really is a change in how we view right, community, family, and
Absolutely.
identity. And the
I
self, yeah.
know people who have like 16-year-old children who are not allowed to walk 4 blocks in the middle of the day alone. And that shocks me.
I blame the milk cartons for that, right?
And I do think the milk cartons, for our listeners who don't know, there was a campaign of missing children that would appear on the side of the milk carton. Have you seen this child? And I think that started this fear.
And the 24/7 news
Yeah.
cycle, right?
Yeah. So then we enter the 1990s to the 2010s, and parenting becomes much more child-centered. Attachment theory spreads.
You remember, why were kids always falling in wells back then? Remember that? That was such a big deal. Wasn't it like, and then the news
I
would
only
cover.
remember one person, one
news
little
would-
baby
fracking
girl,
solved that.
and they saved her.
Well, right, but it was
That
like
was an
it
incredible
was like
story.
remember, everyone's riveted to CNN watching the kid in a well.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Were they falling? Where are these wells? Why were kids? I mean, that's what got us hooked on this. Every around every
Partly-
quarter is this danger, right?
Yeah, yeah. You got to stay with your kids at all times. Parents were told to be present. Oh,
There we go.
That's the wrong one.
Supposed to be a
Parents-
laugh track. Anyway.
parents became more attuned, developmentally aware, and trauma informed. So you start to see this big shift, right? Now you've got helicopter parents. It changes drastically from how we were raised. And it's a cultural transformation that actually changes how belonging works.
And we are also
But we're the
not
helicopter
blaming,
parents. That's the
blaming
irony.
kids, right? This is a shift, a societal change in how we see family, how we raise children.
Yes. And around that same time, I mean, we also have families moving away geographically. And so where we used to have a whole unit raising kids, now it might just be 1 or 2 parents. And maybe they're hiring babysitters here and there. Anyway, part of what struck me about this whole phenomenon is that many of the parents being cut off today read the books. They went to the games. They asked about feelings. They paid for therapy. They consciously tried to do better than their own parents had, and in many cases they did. And yet, their adult children are choosing distance.
Yeah. So if emotional attentiveness increases, right, why does estrangement appear to be more visible, more publicly framed as empowerment? It suggests that we're not simply dealing with being bad parenting.
All right. Let's turn that off now. I'm parenting Bernie.
I mean, we're dealing with change in expectations, right?
Yeah.
Today's parents are expected to validate identity, regulate emotional environments, avoid micro invalidations, apologize precisely, affirm fluid identities, which that one's a tough one, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's changing all the time. Avoid causing harm, and self-sacrifice.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot. I don't know if I could be a parent today. You have to be so on your game, and it just feels hard. And it's important to note that in a culture with expanded emotional awareness, what counts as harm has also expanded. So,
Yep.
and then there's another shift layered in. Parenting moved from authority-centered, what we were talking about earlier, where you knew the parent was the authority, to child-centered. So in some homes that can unintentionally teach that the child's emotional experience is the final moral authority.
That's bizarre.
Chaotic.
I can't imagine that.
When emotional validation becomes the highest value, just any disagreement can start to feel like harm. And by harm, we're really saying abuse.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but the definition, like you said, the definition of harm has expanded, right?
Right.
And part of the identity thing is authority, or that hierarchy begins to flatten.
Right.
Yeah.
The child starts to have starts to dictate what is harm, what is abuse, and what does that look like for our relationship as parent and child.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, you know, it raises a difficult question. Did we move from strong authority to strong affirmation without building resilience?
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's a really important question. Now we've got strong emotional expression, but fragile bonds.
yeah, we gained emotional awareness, but we may have weakened durability.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the definition is,
Or
It's-
increased fragility.
it's not
right?
like what it used to be, where it was based on sort of like an achievement. It's how you feel.
What is
Just
based on an achievement?
reality, I think, like
Right.
harm.
Right. It is. You're absolutely right. It is based on how you
Not
feel.
achievement, but like
You really have
like
to. You really had to
experience.
achieve that harm. Right.
Yeah, now it's your lived experience. If you feel like you've been invalidated by your parent, you know, maybe you're not feeling so good about something and they're in a hurry and your mom says, yeah, we'll talk about that later. That to you might read as very serious harm.
that was like my third year of
My
life.
mom. I can see my mom cooking. I'm like, Mom, I want to become an astronaut. She's sitting there cooking, stirring, smoking.
That's nice,
She's like,
honey.
yeah, right. Didn't hear a word I said. Yeah.
So if expectations changed and definitions of harm expanded and durability weakened, in that cultural environment, how does someone actually move from frustration to full estrangement? Let's walk through how it often unfolds.
I don't have the laugh track, so
So how no contact happens, right?
Yeah.
So most estrangements don't start with a dramatic blow up, right? They usually begin quietly. Ambiguous distress, something feels off, not necessarily abuse, not necessarily catastrophic, just a persistent sense of misalignment, resentment, and feeling unseen.
Yeah, and you know, last time we talked about this a little bit, but I called it ambiguous disparity, which I didn't realize till I listened back to the show. And I was like, disparity?
Ambiguous
It's distress. Yeah. So ambiguous distress is like what you just said. You feel like maybe you don't belong. And I think all young people are going to go through ambiguous
Right,
distress
yeah.
of some kind.
Yeah.
It's part of discovering who you are. But now what are you doing?
That explains my life from age 8 to 27, ambiguous distress.
Yeah. I'm still having existential angst. But if you're sitting on a computer and you're in ambiguous distress, you might, find some answers in some chat rooms or on TikTok.
Exactly, from people other than your family, right?
Right. Might help you define if you can label. Well, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Right, and we'll get there for sure. Right, reinterpretation, right? The adult child begins reframing past events through newer psychological language, boundaries, trauma, gaslighting, narcissism, and emotional safety.
All those keywords you hear all the time, they're
Buzzwords.
like,
Yeah.
I'm
Therapy speak, right?
therapy speak. I'm so sick of hearing the term gaslighting and narcissist.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to sound defensive but we have heard
You
those
do
terms
hear
a
it
lot.
in pop culture,
You
which
do.
is bizarre.
You hear it-
They've infiltrated
it
culture.
comes up in conversations,
I
just
still-
benign conversations.
Not that I want to know the definition of it, but I still don't really understand gaslighting.
Gaslighting is just when you deny
Tut, tut.
somebody's lived experience and try to make them feel like they're crazy. There was actually a movie, in the 1940s maybe?
It was really about a guy trying to drive his wife crazy, so he turned the gas light on and off, and
Right.
she thought she was just losing her
It
mind.
was
right?
Betty Davis, and I forget the male and female actor, but I believe he's having an affair with another woman, and they're trying to drive her mad. And so, the gaslight, by today's terms, that would be like turning on an electric light, except these lights ran on gas, and they would go turn it on, and she'd walk in the room,
new
and she'd
movie
be
would
like, that light wasn't on before. And then she'd walk out, and the light would be off, and they were trying to drive her mad.
So, yeah, I still
gaslighting.
don't get the definition.
It'd be called electric lighting today.
Electric lighting.
Flicking on and off the light.
LED treatment.
Yeah. So we talked about external validation, right? Peers, online communities, therapy spaces reinforce new framing.
Yep.
If it feels harmful, it is harmful. And
Yep.
for many people, that language feels clarifying, right? It gives structure to pain that was once vague.
Oh boy.
The language solidifies.
Yeah, so that goes back to this ambiguous distress. You're kind of cloying, you're not cloying. What's the word when you're like feeling around? You're grasping at a reason.
Groping?
Yeah, maybe groping. That doesn't sound right either.
That sounds dirty.
It does. You're trying to figure
You're
out.
grasping. You're grasping at straws.
Yeah, you're trying to figure out, like, why do I feel vaguely uneasy and like I don't belong? And then say you're online and you stumble across a video, a TikTok, about somebody explaining, oh, I was harmed by my parents and it caused this, this, and that. And all of a sudden you start thinking, did my parents harm me too? Is that why I feel this way? And,
Right.
and you start reframing.
And then you have to name it, right?
Right.
So the situation becomes less gray and more right or wrong.
Right.
And this isn't conflict. This is harm. You're,
Right.
You're naming
Y-
it.
Your
right?
moral clarity increases.
Right.
And then now you're looking at whatever you think is making you uncomfortable. And again, this isn't to deny the pain or the distress. It's real,
Mm-hmm.
but you're maybe trying to frame it. And you start thinking, hey, this is abuse. My
Right.
parents have abused me. So now an adult child might go to a parent and say, hey, I need an apology from you for what you did. I need you to acknowledge that you abused me. And I need you, in some cases, to affirm that I was victimized or abused by you. And there's only like so much the parent can do. And if the parent is unable to do that, the child may threaten, well, then I'm not going to have a relationship with you anymore. And then you have a rupture. And it's really important to say that to the person, the adult child, this act feels morally righteous. They're not trying to punish their parent. They're not being rebellious or defiant. They really believe that their experience to be true. And I'm sure if there are any adult children listening, just my saying they really believe their experience to be true is probably a little upsetting. They're probably saying, no, it is true. I was abused and you might have been. But we're just trying to explain how it
Right.
becomes enacted that an adult child might choose to go no contact.
The question I have is what happens inside a relationship when one person defines the harm, defines the moral framework, and defines the consequences.
Yeah.
I mean, that is certainty, right? That's a line in the sand.
Yeah. And it's a difficult line. And we are going to talk a little bit more about that a little later in the show. But it's a question that we would ask our listeners to sit with and to consider, again, what happens when one person is defining the whole enchilada?
I can't conceive that. It's almost a generational thing.
It absolutely is.
Well, and that this is the problem that families are having. The child is having one experience that's real, and the parent is having another experience. And how do they meet?
Now,
How do they find the middle ground?
I need to devolve and put it into my terms. I was
Okay.
watching The Real Housewives of
Of what, Beverly Hills?
and they have
My favorite.
most of the women on there are older, and then they have a new housewife, and she's younger, and
Her name's Amanda.
they're having kind of the same problem where she uses all these terms that are just it's like therapy speak.
She pulled power away from
She
them.
actually
does.
did. Yeah.
And she says things like, I'm an adult woman behaving like an adult woman,
yeah.
putting boundaries in place. And for older people, we're like, what?
Yeah, you gotta-
There's something that happens where another one of the characters tries to have a conversation with her around a conflict,
confront her about what she said.
but confront
behind her back.
right.
Great show.
Right. I
Mhm.
mean, we're not going to recap the
Anyway,
whole show, but you
it is-
start seeing it everywhere.
It was bizarre.
When
Oh,
you-
yeah.
Yeah, when you become aware of what's going on,
Right.
you start to see it playing out in society.
And
I
there's
know it
something
isn't
else here that
exactly
we haven't named, right? Often the parent is being asked to accept a moral label abusive, narcissistic, unsafe.
Yeah.
They don't
mhm.
recognize as true, and that creates that second rupture.
Yeah. Well, imagine that. Imagine that you're a parent who believes you've given everything to your child. Maybe a parent is like us. They came up as a latchkey kid and they felt a little emotionally neglected, left alone a little too much. And they're like, I'm going to give my child everything I didn't have. And they really try to do that. And then their child grows up and turns around and says, not only did you harm me, but you were abusive.
Right.
And if you can't admit that, we've got a real problem. Well, it's ironic because on one hand, adult children want their identity validated or affirmed. And yet they're turning around and saying to their parents, whose identity is, I was a loving parent, to deny their own identity and say, I was abusive.
And a narcissist and all the other things.
Right.
So it doesn't mean the adult child's pain isn't real, right? But it does mean the repair conversation now requires one person to accept the narrative that negates their own sense of self.
Yeah.
And that's where that standoff occurs.
Yeah. And it seems really difficult and sad. Like, why can't we find the language, which we're going to talk about in a little bit too, to repair these relationships?
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, I know we keep saying
And
this.
this happens in other
Yeah.
cultures, but just in different ways, I guess.
Yeah, it is. Going no contact is happening in other cultures, but it looks a lot different in the United States. Here, there's a righteousness. It's almost a moral victory.
Well, individualism in the United States is big part of who we are, right? You see it in our movies and our songs,
Yeah.
like the Lone Ranger, right? The doctor
Sure.
that's house that comes in and figures
Yeah.
everything. The lone wolf comes in and saves the day. The systems are broken.
Rambo.
But the lone wolf comes in and saves. So it's
Yeah.
really part of who we are.
The
Right.
renegade.
Right. But there's also a benefit to the idea that we are more public about going no contact. It's happening in countries where it's kept secret. You don't air your dirty laundry. I think New Zealand was one where children kind of quietly slip away from their parents. Then you've got these elderly parents, sometimes all alone in a house, and they can't tell anyone because that's just not done there. But here, because we do talk about it, parents are able to join support groups and, find comfort. It's not just this dirty, shameful
Yeah.
secret, although it was for a period.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
But we are losing the category of conflict that requires resilience.
right.
So I mean that is clear. We're slowly losing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that might have bigger ramifications. So, we've been talking about identity and expectations. Now, let's zoom in a little bit. If durable relationships decline, what happens to belonging? There's a difference between what I'd call longitudinal love and episodic affirmation. Longitudinal, am I saying that right?
Longitudinal. You said longitudinal.
I did. I said
Longitudinal.
longitudinal.
You go longitudinal.
Oh.
Lozenge poodle.
Longitudinal love
Just just keep going.
is love that stretches across time. It's what we were talking about in the beginning.
Why am I wearing my coat?
I don't know. It's warm in here.
Endless
Bernie even
love.
got you a water. So longitudinal love survives your worst year. It survives disagreement, embarrassment, an arrest for being with people who were smoking pot in a parking lot of a bar.
Druggos.
It survives your bad haircut and your bad decisions.
Why are you looking at me?
Episodic affirmation feels good in the moment.
Now you're looking at Dan.
It validates who you are right now.
Right.
But it may not be built to endure friction.
yeah.
And that would scare me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I want the longitudinal
Sure.
love.
Well,
So
it's an investment, it feels like.
right. I mean, it's something
mean,
you
it
don't walk away from.
Stands the test of time.
And if relationships become more fragile, it becomes hard to invest in them, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. If a relationship is fragile, how much time and effort am I going to give it?
Right.
I mean,
It's transactional.
how meaningful
I
is it? Like, Dan, you and I have had some pretty deep conversations about some of these issues, and we can get we don't get too heated. We're never like yelling at each other, but you know, you'll go, what are you rolling your eyes at? I'm like, we're rolling our eyes
you're
at
like-
each other and sighing.
So, I mean,
And wait, but then we go home, and then it's like, aw, I love Dan. And, you know, we say, hey, I hope I didn't upset you. It was an interesting conversation. It teaches us, like, we are safe with each other. We can
Right.
have these spirited discussions. We can disagree on these points.
you can show your full self, right?
Right. It's
And-
safe. It's a safe friendship.
And, you know, and that's the tension. And I think we're asking something big here, right? What holds people together over time, and what happens when we lose shared ways of working through disagreement? You know, and we know strong societal or social bonds are protective, right?
Yeah.
At the same time,
They're
we're see-
psychologically protective.
yeah, we're seeing high rates of loneliness and rising depression, and we're seeing declining in-person community and more online socialization.
Right. So,
That famous book, Bowling Alone.
yep, you
Um,
love that book.
God,
Yeah.
I've never heard of any of these books.
Yeah.
I need a library card.
You have a library card.
What?
Yeah, I actually looked up some statistics on this, and it's about 1 in 3 adults are reporting loneliness now, with young adults aged 18 to 34 reporting some of the highest rates. And according to a Gallup poll, among young adults under 30, current depression rates have roughly doubled since 2017, from about 13% to nearly 27%. So that's from before the pandemic.
Right.
And it's hard, like, of course, you want to draw a correlation here, but we can't. We don't know
Yeah.
if these increased levels of depression correlate to going no contact with family members. But
Wow.
it's hard not to think that there might be a connection.
Yeah, and then so if long-term bonds weaken while short-term networks expand, people may gain identity affirmation. But I think over the long run lose, and even in the short run lose stability. That doesn't make estrangement automatically wrong. It does raise a serious question, though. If family is now more fragile, what replaces its stabilizing role?
Yeah, and is there anything? Like,
I don't know.
maybe you can marry someone and have such a strong relationship that becomes your stabilizing role, or maybe your own children. Maybe you are lucky enough to have these fantastic friendships that they really can replace your family. But if it's I don't want to use the word easy either, because I'm sure it's
No.
extremely difficult to estrange from a family member. But if feeling invalidated makes you feel abused or just harmed, we'll say, what happens when you have a disagreement with a dear friend who makes you feel invalidated? Do you also walk away from that relationship? So I don't know what replaces its stabilizing role. In previous eras, even imperfect ones, conflict resolution usually involved negotiation. You know, we argued, there's the back and forth, we shared language, and we worked through disagreement. And it wasn't always easy. I mean, I can remember sometimes sitting for hours, not like a kind of heated discussion that you and I, Dan, might have on a philosophical topic, but a real issue that you try to hammer out with someone you love. And why do you do it? Because the relationship is that important to you. You want to find a way through this.
You're looking to stabilize and, and repair a conflict.
Yes, absolutely.
And now that with the line in the sand, that certainty, you just walk away from it.
Yeah, and it feels terrible to me that relationships could be disposable. It actually frightens me. Like, I can't imagine, and I want to add also, because we've talked about this as well, if we were younger and we had grown up in this era, we would be doing the exact same thing.
Absolutely.
Like, these young people, it's not like we blame them or we're angry at them. And I'm sure they think, well, we're doing the right thing. We're better than the generations before us. We're putting an end to, they say we're putting an end to generational abuse. We're drawing the line in the sand. We're moving forward. But being in the place we're in, and as we said last week, we don't have children, so none of us are experiencing this.
You know, and the word abuse is thrown around quite a bit,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But if you look at the definition of abuse, it has it's really the power component. Is someone utilizing power over you? And the whole postmodern era was really a direct attack on power.
Right.
So it's just a strategy employed all the way downstream.
Right. But I think partly what confuses me about the term abuse is intent. If a parent genuinely loves their child and absolutely wants the best for their child, yet the child feels or perceives they've been abused, is that abuse? They say yes. They say impact trumps intent.
Well, I read both. I read like, oh, it's abuse, but just the expansion of the definition of harm. So
Well, what
they
does
fall
that
back.
mean?
Right, exactly. Harm and abuse. There are. I mean, it's nuanced. There are some differences there. Like I said, abuse contains that power component.
Yeah,
Harm doesn't necessarily contain the power. Harm fits underneath the abuse umbrella.
I think so too. And I'll say I recoil from the word abuse.
Mm-hmm.
To me, and probably to
As I do too. Yeah.
Yeah.
In most situations, certainly. Again, there's real abuse out there.
Yes. Yes, there is.
Get the
But
phone calls.
I think we grew up with an idea objectively. Everyone was in agreement on what defined abuse.
Mhm.
And today, if the moral authority is left to the person's lived experience, anything that feels
Exactly.
like abuse,
The topic or the point Bernie brought up, right?
Right.
It's the individual.
Don't
now.
blame it on me.
Yeah.
yeah, but that's abuse. And if you question that, even just for clarity, for understanding, like you're not accusing anyone of anything, you're saying, no, I want to understand more. That
And-
can
and
be
it-
seen as invalidation, and then you too become an abuser. And all you're trying to do is understand.
And that doesn't seem fair. Like you can't even ask them to explain it.
right.
It's already determined, and it bears repeating. Rupture then becomes the resolution.
Right. So
So you're so toxic or abusive.
Yep.
That you have to be.
You have
cut
to
out.
admit all of that, and
But are they at some point like saying, I forgive you? Is there ever, like
I'm sure that does happen in some
you
cases.
know, I don't know how much we're going to get into it, but I
Okay.
did look into reconciliation, and it is happening.
okay.
But it usually happens without a lot of fanfare, because if you go online and you say, I really missed my parents, it's been 5 years, the holidays were sad and lonely, or I broke my leg and there was no one to take care of me and I thought, God, I miss my mom. They do that quietly behind the scenes. Going online and doing that, you might bump up against the group again who says harm is harm, and if you feel this way and impact, it can be difficult to do. So you had asked, Dan, if family's now more fragile, what replaces its stabilizing role? And we're talking a little bit about that, but in previous eras, well, we talked about that too, didn't we?
She needs her lemon juice.
I need my laugh track.
I don't know why. I don't know why.
We're on the corner.
She's looking at me
on the
laughing.
corner,
Just-
on
talking about
the
some serious
radio.
issues. She's kind of talking about
It's
families
because-
breaking up.
do
She
you
looks
want-
at me and just laughs.
It's because I'm punch drunk, because I read so much about this last night and today that I'm like out of my mind. It was this beautiful day. I'm like, let me look up the statistics of how many people are depressed. Like all day I've been at this. So I'm just punchy.
You
Well,
love a rabbit hole.
If you spend Tuesday night alone and it's your birthday and you've written your whole family off, that's pretty depressing.
It is. It's really depressing.
Like, I wish my crazy Aunt Sally would call and wish me a
Yeah,
happy birthday.
yeah. So to answer Bernie's question, yes, there are people
Bernie
that
had
are
a question? Oh.
reconciling. I don't know if they forgive. I don't know.
Okay.
And there are parents, by the way, who are they want so badly
Of course.
to reconcile that they are going to therapy and trying to learn the language and understand. And there should be a middle ground where both parties meet. So anyway, now we're in this framework where lived experience carries.
You're reading all about depression today. It's 63
Yeah,
degrees
I
and
know.
sunny outside.
Everybody's telling me it's beautiful out, and I'm like inside with a cat jumping on me and a dog barking for treats.
Now you know what I go through when I'm.
So now we're in this framework where the lived experience carries enormous moral authority. It's protected. Oh, and it's good. It's like some good has come out of this. Postmodernism, questioning these framework power hierarchies, have protected a lot of people who were historically dismissed or marginalized, and that's progress. But it does change how conflict unfolds.
Right. I think for me, I think postmodernism did do a lot of good, right?
Yeah.
Because if you look at tradition and culture, they're kind of like governors on behavior, right? They kind of control behavior. You could be, for example, you could be born in Chicago in a parish, you're Catholic, you're Italian or Irish, you live in that neighborhood. They're like shackles of what you can do, right? You're there, they
Absolutely.
kind of control behavior. It frees you from that.
And
to be
not
fully
just
realized.
behavior, but
Well, I mean, behavior isn't, you didn't move 1,000 miles away. You didn't do these other things. I want to be a movie star. You were just kind of stuck in your world, and it kind of freed that up.
yeah. What is that? Is it the ghost of Christmas
I don't know,
present
that was Bernie screwing up again.
rattling something?
So, I mean, for me,
Yeah.
I would like to see, and maybe I'm jumping ahead here.
No.
I would like to see enough cohesion
Mm-hmm.
to maintain community,
I don't know what that is.
but not enough to oppress, right?
Right.
So you want to
Exactly.
be who you are, but you still want to be tethered to who you are,
Right.
Because your inherited identity is valid. It is important. It doesn't define you completely, right?
Right.
You should have the freedom to be what you want to be and be who you want to be.
Absolutely.
But to throw it all, it's not a zero-sum game.
Right. I think what must be particularly difficult in this day and age is if you need your identity validated from external forces that are also possibly fluid and changing. If you don't have that steady, like we said in the beginning, our family members,
It's
for
fragile,
instance,
yeah.
and our friends, and so if harm is defined unilaterally and questioning definition is treated as invalidation, then dialogue
Right.
just collapses.
This is the real question is for Bernie.
Yeah.
So Bernie,
Are we in a bus
who's
station?
right? Who's right in all of this?
Well, now everything is subjective, so everybody's right
Well-
and wrong at the same time.
Right, exactly. Yeah, good answer.
It's the
Yeah, it's your lived.
I don't know.
Your
I
lived truth.
my brain locked up.
And we touched on this in the beginning. We mentioned society, but if family is the smallest social unit we have, and repair has been collapsing inside families, what happens to a society when we lose shared mechanisms for disagreement? We touched on this last week too. We were talking about how does society move forward?
It's the smallest unit we have, but it's the jumping off point for everything.
It is. It teaches you how to be in the world at large. And it again, you have to be able to talk about this stuff to move forward, to solve any problem. And we're not able to do it right now. I mean, society has become so fragmented and everybody chooses which faction they want to belong to, and they're just opposed to
and worse,
the
it's
others.
And I-
politicized.
Yeah, and it's weaponized as well.
Yeah.
I think I know we touched on it, but the turbocharge what social media does
Yeah.
kind of creates these online tribal communities
I
that are weak and fragile.
I would have been a mess when I was a kid.
Yeah, I don't know.
You mean today? You would
Yeah,
be if you
I-
were a kid?
Yeah, I would be.
You mean a bigger mess?
Yeah,
Yeah, me too. Bigger mess.
bigger mess.
Yeah.
I would probably have a viral following.
Sheila would be. She'd be killing it in today's world.
I'd love it.
If anyone should have ran screaming
No.
from the hills, it should have been you. You should have broke off.
Oh, well.
Eh.
Yeah.
Yeah, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
So I mean, how do we allow people to leave genuine abuse while still strengthening the muscle of dialogue for everything else? You know.
How do we do that?
Yeah.
I think the first thing is we have to be able to define genuine abuse. I don't think moral authority works. The lived experience.
Yes.
You cannot, these things cannot be subjective, because if
No.
they are, we're having 100 different conversations. How can you talk about anything?
Well, I'll say something. I think that might be a little more controversial. I love what Australia is doing with banning people under 16 from using
Me
social
too.
media. Right?
I
think it should
do
be
too.
18. I think it should be 18. I swear it should be 18. It is. I think it's. I enjoy
They should ban it from
the
me.
internet as much as anyone else, right?
Yeah.
But it really does when you're a 10, 11, 12,
Sure,
13-year-old kid.
absolutely.
It can really. They're
Those
targeted.
dopamine hits.
And they're targeted, right? They're targeted. So it's how do you? It's and you know, in schools as well, you know, and this came up when we were talking about Free to Be Me, you and me, and the stuff that came up in the 70s. They began teaching identity,
Yes.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
no,
right?
no, it's
But, you know,
good.
be
No,
who
it's a
you are, right?
Evolution.
But I think when identity over community becomes the emphasis, that can lead to some of the issues we're talking about. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't teach identity. You should. But there is an overemphasis on the individual and identity and choosing your identity, manufacturing it,
You
and
know,
then curating it.
I'll go a step. I don't know if it's a step further, but fine. Teach identity, absolutely. Identity can be fluid. It can be whatever you want. My issue is that the lived experience trumps reality, that the lived experience becomes the authority, and everyone has to accept everyone else's lived experience.
Right.
Lived experience is important. I loved when I was younger and I could read a good memoir, and I love that stuff. Finding out this is what this person.
I love the story of you complaining to your mother that she never taught you how to churn butter.
Oh,
'Cause you
or
read-
darn
you read,
socks. Little House on the
Little House on the
Prairie.
Prairie.
Yeah,
You were ahead of the game.
I was like crying and yelling, I don't know how to churn butter. I don't know
Oh
how
my
to
God.
darn
My
socks.
kid is
You-
crazy.
You
Yeah,
would've-
she did think I
you
was
wouldn't have
crazy.
enjoyed it.
She said, "Are you nuts? You want to go live in the Little House on the Prairie?"
I have this fond memory now, and when I was going through it, I was like, oh. My parents had an ice cream maker.
Yeah.
You had to go downstairs
God.
and you
Crank.
I never
thing.
got to do that
you
ever.
put salt on the side of it to keep you just sitting and cranking it just
Oh my
for your little.
God.
My parents made a thing of it, and
Yeah.
I think it's kind of sweet now that I
Of
look back at.
course.
But back then I was like,
Did your parents ever make?
Just
you
go
didn't,
buy it.
how old were you?
I don't know, 10 maybe.
I was dying. There were two things I wanted: an ice cream maker and an easy oven.
Bake
easy,
oven.
easy bake oven. I never got either. I did get an easy
did you
bake
ever
oven, but it got
make
broken
root
before I
beer?
got to.
Bottle root beer.
N-
You could.
No,
had-
they never
had-
did that. They made
the
taffy,
kits.
ice cream.
I think some company had a kit, and you could do it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh yeah, right. So we did
Probably-
cover a lot
probably
tonight. didn't we?
poison.
Yeah, we have. We've covered a lot tonight. And we want to repeat, this isn't about declaring winners and losers. I think it's very difficult today, whether you're both sides. It's a very difficult position to be in. These kids love their parents. They want a
Sure, of
relationship
course.
with their parents. The parents love their kids. It's just they're coming from two different definitions of words and experiences, and somehow they can't find the middle ground. So
And we're not saying real harm does not exist.
right.
The FCC is big. Every 8th paragraph. Right?
So
quit
let's
looking at
ask a couple of questions. So for any adult children who have stepped back, they've pulled the lens out, or they're thinking about things in a different way. A couple of questions for you to ponder would be: is total severance proportional to the harm that you experienced as a child? Is that really what you want to do? Is repair truly impossible? Can love and harm coexist? And can someone wound you and still love you? Which I've heard some adult kids say no. But really, let's think about that. Can someone wound you unintentionally and still love you? And what do we do with that complexity? And instead of answering that, just sit with it and, maybe think about that.
I think you meant severing, not severance,
Oh, maybe.
right?
Well, I said
No,
no.
severance, same.
I said
Is it?
it's total
Okay.
severance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And, and the parents also, right?
Yeah.
Are you listening without defensiveness? And not laughing?
Whew, that's gotta be
Are you like my dad would just be laughing? He would just be laughing. My mom would be pointing.
My mom would be like,
she'd be buckling
My mom
over.
would be like, "Are you nuts? Good,
My
go."
mom
Wait, let little Danny talk. He's got some more questions for.
My mom would
It
have
would make a
rage in
whole.
her eye.
Oh, my parents would have loved this.
Mine too.
Are you minimizing because it doesn't match your memory?
Right,
So
right.
it's
That's
easy
a
to
good
do, right?
question.
And can you tolerate discomfort long enough to stay in the room?
And that's a good question
That's a real
too,
question.
because I think that if somebody were saying to me, if I had a child and they were saying, you abused me and I need you to admit that, I would not be comfortable. I would have a very hard
Oh,
time
yeah.
with that.
Right.
There's got to be a middle ground. There's got to be a way for the parent and the child to discuss this stuff by altering the language. This
Yeah.
all to me comes down to dialogue. And if words like abuse and harm aren't working, find another way of talking about it. Repair requires humility on both sides.
Yeah.
What holds families together?
She's laughing. She needs her lemon. You didn't bring it, did you?
I
know.
have it ready. Should I just go with that?
I don't know. I don't know why. Oh.
That's the wrong one.
What holds families together isn't perfection, it's durability. It's shared language. It's the willingness to repair. If rupture becomes our primary solution, we may protect ourselves in the short term, but weaken our long-term stability. The question isn't who's right. The question is whether we still believe in repair. Maybe the work now is rebuilding the muscles of dialogue.
Yeah, and that durability builds endurance, and that endurance builds continuity, and that is what you need as you go through life.
Yes, absolutely. You need it as you go through life.
You're looking at Bernie. Bernie, and I love-
All right.
we got
Oh,
our,
you want to do it? Okay.
we can do the jingle at the end.
Yeah.
I thought that I thought that's what you're doing. Go
All
ahead.
right.
Oh, okay.
Well, we could say our
We
goodbyes
ended
now.
on okay. I thought we ended on this great note. Maybe the work now is rebuilding the muscle of dialogue, and
Yeah.
then I thought he was breaking into
the
the
old
song.
muscle of dialogue.
All right, thanks everyone. That was
Thank
a
you,
lot.
everybody.
our
I'm
name.
sorry for my laughing fits.
Ben's got trivia on his mind. Bernie's wondering what we'll find. Sheila's spinning stories too. It's River West, we all do. Talking life, talking lore on the corner once more. From River West to wherever you go. We're on the corner on the radio.
Thanks everyone. Have a great night.
See you next time.
Toodaloo.